Do you want to kill bosses fast? Do you want to spend time living on the absolute edge so that you can use Limit Break way too much? Then this is the guide for you. Today I will go into all the details that you need to start generating Limit Break in your speed kills. The Limit Break bar is divided into 3 steps, each step taking 10,000 units of Limit Break to fill up. A full Limit Break free requires 30,000 units to activate. Limit Break is generated through 3 main methods: passive generation, critical mitigation, and critical healing. There's also fight-specific generation, but I won't get into that today. Method 1. Passive generation. If you enter a raid with an 8-man party, you're eligible for Limit Break free. While you are fighting, you will passively generate 220 units of Limit Break every 3 seconds. So, for doing absolutely nothing but staying alive, you will get a Limit Break bar for free at 2 minutes and 16 seconds. Limit Break free will thus unlock at 6 minutes and 51 seconds into the fight. Granted, you did nothing else to generate Limit Break. However, there are certain factors that can tamper with passive Limit Break generation. For instance, bringing a duplicate job, such as a Double Dark Knight, puts a single penalty point on your party. Subsequent duplicates grant you 1 point per duplicate. Also, not bringing the standard of 2 tanks, 2 healers, and 4 DPS to party incurs 1 penalty point per non-standard job listed. For instance, in old Extreme Far runs, bringing 1 tank, 1 healer, and 6 DPS will put 2 penalty points on the party. Each penalty point reduces passive Limit Break generation by a set amount. At 0 penalty points, you gain the normal 220 per 3 seconds. At 1 penalty point, 170 per 3 seconds, and so forth. Penalty points are capped at 5. Because FF logs only accept standard team compositions for rankings, teams already meet the party composition requirements by default. Most teams then make sure not to bring duplicate jobs as not to gain penalty points. However, sometimes the trade-off for bringing a duplicate job is worth more than the passive Limit Break generation, as seen in P12S Phase 1, where Exception placed first with 2 Black Mages. Important to note here is that this is in part due to how short the fight is, so lacking passive Limit Break has less of an effect than on a longer fight. But this is boring as hell. Let's get to the fun part.
Let's fucking go. Let's fucking go.
Method 2. Critical mitigation. When you take damage that was supposed to kill you, but you are saved due to mitigation, you gain Limit Break. For instance, mitigating a deadly lethal tank buster with cooldowns will grant you 300 units of Limit Break for surviving. Similarly, if your party survives a lethal raid-wide through critical mitigation, each surviving party member grants the party 300 units of Limit Break. Excluding the tanks, because they're privileged not to take damage, you can technically generate 1800 units of Limit Break from a single raid-wide. It's very important to note here that reducing the damage dealt by the boss does not count towards critical mitigation. For instance, if you reduce the damage of the raid-wide through reprisal, addle, feint, or dismantle, the raid-wide itself might not be enough to kill you in the first place, so LB generation is done. This can be a legitimate issue in fights like UCOP and UWU, where using debuffs like reprisal would stop the group from generating enough LB for future mechanics. In top, you can screw yourself over in Phase 6 by using reprisal, feint, addle, and dismantle on a single raid-wide, which might stop you from generating enough LB for the first melee Limit Break. Something that has wiped my group in the past. Shameful. If you want to make proper use of this technique, focus on making sure the boss overkills the party, before adding debuffs like reprisal, and then mitigate appropriately. Lastly, what damage actually counts as critical damage is very important to note. Specifically, only direct damage is taken into account. Damage over time effects from the boss will not cause critical damage LB generation, even if having mitigated them is the reason you survived. Method 3. Critical healing. The most difficult to use technique is critical healing. If a party member is below 10% of their maximum HP, and is then healed by an active healing ability, you gain 300 LB units. While you've probably already experienced it before, and while this seems easy, there are a lot of details about this that aren't very well known. First off, this method can only be triggered by healers. Second Wind, Curing Wards, and similar effects do not work. Furthermore, Single target healing will actually double the generation to 600 LB units. The least well documented part of this method is what actually counts as active healing. In summary, active healing is where an ability heals as a direct result of it being activated. For instance, Lilies, Succor, Essential Dignity, and Pneuma will work, but regeneration effects like Asylum and Physis won't. While this all makes sense, the details of what does work and doesn't sometimes is a little inconsistent. For instance, Horoscope running out and healing the party will not proc critical healing, but reactivating it early will. Macrocosmos running out will also not proc critical healing, but interestingly, reactivating it won't either. Star is also completely impossible to generate with, even if reactivated. Scholar's Consolation and Fey Blessing can generate, even though they are not actively cast by the healer themselves but the fairy. Also interesting is that Protraction, Benediction, and Lady of Crowns can proc critical healing. Here's a list with all known methods or non-methods of proccing critical healing that I compiled on the spot and hopefully is true. I don't know, I don't test these things. Planning. This is Timmy the Red Mage, and Timmy has a health bar. Watch out, Timmy. Here comes a raid wide. Ouch. That didn't go according to plan, did it? Let's try again. This is still Timmy. Timmy still has a health bar. Now watch out, Timmy. Here comes the raid wide. Oh my god, that cat just saved us. Thanks, cat. Yep. Saw that one coming. This is Lil Timmy, and Lil Timmy just survived a deadly apocalypse, granting us a measly 300 limit break points. And since Lil Timmy is below 10% of its HP, we can choose to throw a single target heal on them, granting us another 600 limit break points. Neat. And now, all we need to do is repeat this process over and over again with as many Lil Timmys as we can throughout the course of a fight. Thus, every single speed kill becomes a dance throughout the entire party to try and drop as low as possible and try to collect as many healing ticks as you can. This can, well, prove quite challenging, actually. Final Fantasy XIV is not deterministic. Everything you do has a 10% variance slapped on it. At most, 5% up and 5% down, and everything in between. This is why we can't just plan for Timmy's to drop to 1 HP every time. We could take 5% more damage one time and die, or take 5% less damage and lose the option to critically heal on Timmy. But we can do as well as we can. Inside the log, we can look for the U value, which shows raw damage taken without mitigation. For each possibility, we need to try and find the absolute highest number we can find, and plan around it so that no matter how unlucky we get, our Timmys won't die. Good for you, Timmys. It doesn't end there though, as healing also brings a random factor. If we heal our Timmys too much, we will have too much HP, and the next raid wipe might not be lethal anymore. Big active healing abilities like White Mage's Lilies, Astrologian's Star, or Sage's Pneuma can all be very scary to use. Not only can they be stronger than what we want them to be, they can critically heal and completely overshoot the thresholds we're looking for. But don't fret, there is a solution. Regeneration effects. Because regeneration effects are buffs, we can actually click them off by right-clicking their icons or using this cool-looking macro. Because the heals from regeneration are small, and thus less affected by random variants, we can use this to more precisely reach the HP thresholds we are aiming for. In this clip from RNG Factory, you can see and hear this concept in action.
56, 52.
These numbers represent the HP thresholds their Timmys are aiming for. But why are there two numbers? Well, the first number is for physical jobs, and the second one is for magical jobs. Physical jobs tend to take more damage than magical jobs do, due to their lower magic defense stat, but they compensate with a higher maximum health pool. That disparity needs to be accounted for, and that's why we calculate for both physical jobs and magical jobs separately. As soon as these HP thresholds are reached, Timmys will click off their regeneration effects so that they are in the perfect position to take just the right amount of damage. Neat. And well, that's it. Combining all you've learned, you now know all the basic arts you need for speed killing. There are a lot more cool details and text to learn, but I will be covering them in separate videos. Please like the video and subscribe for more fun stuff like this. This has been Caro, and I'll see you next time.